Thank you for inviting me tonight to share with you about a very special person and his connection to Gratz, Eric Mandell. Eric Mandell lived with his wife Martha in an apartment building near the Philadelphia Art Museum. It just so happened that they lived across the hall from my beloved piano teacher, Jean Berend. When Jean realized I was taking Jewish music classes at Gratz, she insisted on introducing me to her neighbor. At that first meeting, Eric was already in his 70s and suffering from Parkinson's. I remember vividly how Martha put on the metronome, which enabled Eric to use his walker to move in rhythmic steps around his apartment. By the time I started to interview Eric in 1980 and 81, he was living in the Philadelphia Geriatric Center. I took a cassette player and notebook with me to each interview. The cassette tapes were given to Sholem Altman in addition to the completed thesis and are probably somewhere still in the library. It was Dr. Irving Cohen who recommended doing an oral biography of Eric for my thesis, required to attain my master's in Jewish music from Gratz. He realized the importance of Eric's unique collection and his interesting life story. Oral biographies were a pretty new concept then, and I was grateful for his guidance on how to go about it. Each interview attempted to hone in on a particular aspect of his life and his passion for collecting. My thesis covers much more in detail Eric's life after coming to the States because he did not want to dwell on his time in Germany during the war. He managed to transfer the entirety of his first collection of Jewish music to cousins in Holland in 1939 before he fled Germany. Unfortunately, when his cousins returned from living in hiding, the collection was gone. A huge loss. Undeterred, Eric started collecting again when he made it to Philadelphia in 1941. Eric was more meticulous about the care and organization of his collection. Some of his topics include Tin Pan Alley songs, synagogue music, Jewish workers' songs, the idea of Zion, and Kol Nidre. Martha Mandell was instrumental in helping to catalog all the details about each entry in the collection: composer, arranger, vocal or instrumental description, language, etc. The collection also includes about 400 books, which at the time of the writing of my thesis were being cataloged by Warner Victor. The goal was to integrate these books into the resources of the main Gratz library so they would be more accessible to the public. This part of the collection includes 65 rare biographies, autobiographies, and books on the history of liturgical and biblical music. Sometime in the early 2000s, I was contacted by Dr. Manfred Keller, a Protestant minister from Bochum, Germany. The German government was planning on rebuilding the synagogue where Eric was a cantor during the war, and Dr. Keller was interested in publishing a book on Eric in conjunction with the official festivities of the dedication of the new synagogue. Evidently, I was the only person who had ever written anything about Eric. He asked me for permission to publish my thesis in German. With access to government records and a cache of pictures and documents provided by a surviving nephew of Eric's, Dr. Keller was able to fill in many details about Eric's early life. The resulting book is a collaboration with Dr. Keller writing on Eric's early years and my thesis providing the information about Eric's life in the U.S. Both the German version and the original thesis include original compositions by Eric. Some had been published by the Cantors Assembly, and some others remained unpublished. In 2005, I made my first of 2 trips to Bochum, Germany, where I was hosted by Dr. Keller. The synagogue was under construction, but we were able to take a tour. I was taken by surprise when the press showed up to interview me and take pictures. They treated me like a celebrity because of my relationship to Eric. It was all a little unreal. During this trip, I met people involved in the translation and publication of the finished book. In addition, I met Eric's nephew, who survived the war, being raised in a convent. When I returned in 2007, it was for the dedication of the synagogue, which had been completed. My husband and I joined in the procession with the Torahs, starting at the location of the original synagogue and walking about a half a mile to the new synagogue located on the newly named Eric Mandell Platz. There were many dignitaries in attendance along with the press. Once again, I was interviewed with my comments appearing in the newspapers the next day. My Gratz degree has enabled me to use my knowledge of Jewish music to teach in Jewish day schools and Hebrew schools, teach and chant Torah and Megillat Esther, lead Jewish children choirs, and compose, publish, and perform Jewish music. In honor of the dedication of the synagogue in Bochum, I composed the Mandell Fantasy, using the themes of Eric's original liturgical music, in a fantasy form with improvisational material set to my harmonies. Eric's lovely Ahavat Olam, well known in Philadelphia, was actually the preferred melody of the synagogue we joined upon moving to the Bay Area in California. In addition to the Ahavat Olam, other motifs were taken from Eric's Ein Kelohenu, Vishamru, Matovu, and Shalom Aleichem. The ending motif is taken from the pitches for the Torah trope for Sof Pasuk. First performed by me in Germany at a reception given by Dr. Keller as part of the dedication festivities, the fantasy was recently performed again in Munster, Germany in a program hosted by Dr. Keller. In 2021, Dr. Keller contacted me expressing his interest in purchasing the Mandell Library as he realized the uniqueness of the collection. At the same time as his inquiries to Gratz, Dr. Edwin Sarusi, a music professor from Hebrew University on sabbatical in the States, was researching the collection. Fortunately for Gratz, Dr. Sarusi was able to enlighten Dr. Elef on the importance of this amazing collection, which includes some books not found anywhere else. The goal now, under Dr. Elef's leadership, is to have this wonderful library digitized and remain at Gratz. Although disappointed that his offer was turned down, Dr. Keller is grateful that this precious library will soon be digitized and available for generations to come. It truly is the jewel in the crown. I am thankful to have been part of keeping Eric's memory alive, and through my thesis helping in a small way to maintain his library for Gratz. Zichrono livracha, may his memory be for a blessing. It is a great honor now to be able to perform the Mandell Fantasy for you tonight. I hope you enjoy it.